sun path of Druidry in the Black Mountain Druid Order is about our relationship to the divine and to the spiritual. The triad of the sun path consists of the Wheel of the Year, the gods and the goddesses, and Rites of Passage. The Wheel of the Year consists of 8 high days celebrated by Druids and most other pagans. The gods and the goddesses are the way we allow divinity and spirit to work within us. Rites of Passage are events in which we celebrate the important transitions of our lives. Together, these make up the sun path of Druidry in the Black Mountain Druid Order. In most Western cultures, time is seen as linear, but in Druidry, time is cyclical. In Druidry and many other forms of paganism, the cycle of the year is divided up into 8 Sabbats, or high days. These high days are often celebrated with feasts and rituals. They constitute the pagan holidays. These 8 high days consist of the solstices and the equinoxes, and the midpoints between each solstice and equinox. The summer and winter solstice, combined with the spring and fall equinoxes, are called the quarter days. The midpoints between each of these are referred to as the cross quarter days. The beauty of this arrangement is that the high days are evenly distributed throughout the year, with one occurring approximately every 45 days or so. Each high day had a special meaning and significance for those who lived in a pre-industrial society. But they also have an inner spiritual meaning that is significant for pagans today, whether or not they live in agrarian communities. For example, the Feast of Mabon, or the vernal equinox, celebrates the harvest of the first fruits as farmers begin to bring their crops in from the field. But it also symbolizes an inner spiritual harvest as we gather the gifts of spiritual seeds we have sown throughout the year. The 8 high days of the Wheel of the Year are often depicted in graphical form as a wheel with 8 spokes. This wheel is sometimes called the Wheel of Tyrannus. Tyrannus is the Celtic thunder god equivalent to Thor, responsible for weather and seasonal changes. An earlier variation of the Wheel of Tyrannus shows a wheel with only 4 spokes representing the quarter days, without the cross-quarter days. This leads some scholars to believe that originally only the quarter days were celebrated. The astronomical alignments of many of Europe's pagan holy sites tend to confirm this hypothesis. In modern times, it's easy to miss the significance of the Wheel of the Year. We get our food from supermarkets and from fast food restaurants, and most of us don't depend on agriculture and animal husbandry for our well-being. In an agrarian society, though, not knowing the proper times to plant and harvest could literally be a matter of life and death. It's only natural that our pagan ancestors gave the Wheel of the Year a central place in their spiritual and religious practices. For today's Druids, each high day on the wheel symbolizes a different phase of spiritual development. Taken all together, the Wheel of the Year is symbolic of the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth found throughout nature and within an individual's spiritual and personal growth. The circular nature of the wheel reminds us that all of this has happened before, and all of this will happen again. The teaching of reincarnation is a theme in many of the surviving epics of Ireland, and the wheel serves as a living representation of this concept. On another level, the wheel can be taken as a metaphor for life's journey. The wheel tracks the sun as it waxes and wanes throughout the year. With sunrise on the winter solstice, the days begin to grow in length, reaching their peak at the summer solstice. From there, the days begin to get shorter and shorter until the next winter solstice. So the period from winter solstice to vernal equinox represents youth. The period from the vernal equinox to the summer solstice represents young adulthood. The period from the summer solstice to the autumnal equinox represents middle age. And the period from the autumnal equinox to the winter solstice represents old age. Further symbolic meaning in the Wheel of the Year can be seen in the balance between light and dark. The brighter months of summer give way to the darker months of winter, and then the cycle begins anew. This can be seen as a metaphorical representation of one's life journey. We all have periods of darkness and periods of light. When in a period of darkness, it helps to remember that the light will come again. Also, when in a period of light, it helps to remember that the darkness will come again and to be prepared for it. The Greek philosopher Aristotle created the concept of the golden mean. He conceived of the golden mean as a balance between 2 extremes. This idea is often expressed as everything in moderation and nothing in excess. For example, overeating leads to obesity, and not eating enough leads to poor nutrition and therefore poor health. So the balance between these two extremes would be to eat enough to stay healthy without gaining too much weight. Another example would be seen in the extremes of emotion versus reason. To be ruled by emotion is to be tossed upon the wind by the storms of life. On the other hand, to live totally by reason is to live a cold and unfeeling life. True wisdom is found in emotion tempered by reason. Of course, we all have times when our feelings get the better of us. We also probably have times when we stray too far into emotionless rationalism. But eventually, if we're mentally healthy, we return to stability. The Wheel of the Year illustrates this idea well. As the sun moves into the winter months, the days become darker, only to return to the brighter days of the summer. Just as when we are experiencing our darker moods, we may look forward to brighter times. The Wheel of the Year incorporates Aristotle's idea of the golden mean by depicting the tendency in nature to strive for balance between extremes. Scientists call this idea homeostasis. Homeostasis is the concept that a system, when out of balance, tends to correct itself over time to restore that balance. The number 3 is sacred to Druids, and this is reflected in many triads in Druid practice. One of these triads is underworld, Middle Earth, and sky or the heavens. Humans live on the surface of the earth, balanced between the earth below and the heavens above. To many modern Druids, water represents the forces of chaos, and fire represents the forces of order. Looking at the triad of underworld, Middle Earth, and heaven, we find that the underworld is saturated with the waters of chaos. Just as water poured on the ground will seep into the earth, so the forces of chaos seep into the underworld. Likewise, the fire of the sun represents order. Without the sun, plants could not grow upward from the chaos of the earth. Humans and animals live on Middle Earth, or Midgard, the plane that is balanced between the forces of chaos and order. From the Druid perspective in our order, the ideal life is one that strives for a balance between these forces. In our tradition, many rituals end with the phrase, "Between heaven and earth, I find my balance." This indicates that we will always seek to balance chaos and order in our daily lives. To live a life ruled by chaos is to live without direction and purpose. On the other hand, to live a life ruled by order is to become obsessive about everything. Finding balance allows one to live a life of purpose without engaging in compulsive and controlling behavior. The psychoanalyst Carl Jung conceived of the ideas of shadow and persona. Jung believed that all human beings contain within them the potential for all behaviors, both good and bad. According to Jung, the persona is the mask we wear in our everyday lives. It's the face that we present to others. The persona represents who we think we are and who we wish we would like to be. The shadow, on the other hand, represents all those traits we wish to suppress in ourselves. All of our anger, our fears, and other negative emotions and behaviors are pushed down into the shadow and denied expression in the persona. Jung believed that the key to mental health was a process called individuation. Simply put, individuation involves striking a balance between the shadow and the persona. The shadow represents the forces of chaos and darkness within an individual, and the persona represents the forces of order and light. While the shadow contains all of our darker and more negative emotions, it is also the seat of creativity. To deny the existence of one's shadow is to deny one's own ability to be creative. However, allowing the shadow to rule one's life creates a situation where the individual is ruled by the forces of chaos and darkness. Psychoanalysis is the process by which the individual might balance light and darkness within themselves, thus achieving individuation. Some moral, religious, and ethical systems try to deny the existence of our darker impulses. These systems focus solely on the persona, or the face that we present to others. The more such systems suppress the darker impulses in the shadow, the more unbalanced the individual becomes. In such a case, the shadow becomes a pressure cooker with no means to release the pressure. In extreme cases, the pressure cooker blows, leading to dysfunction and even to psychosis. Druidry in the Black Mountain Druid Order recognizes the need to balance the persona and the shadow. By acknowledging our darker impulses, we open the door to create this balance, leading to individuation. Unfortunately, many people think that acknowledging your darker impulses means having to act on them. Nothing could be further from the truth. Suppose someone has done something that leads you to be angry with that person. Your first impulse might be to retaliate in some way, by returning anger for anger, or by hurting the individual in some other way. Those who focus only on the persona would attempt to suppress and deny this impulse, even though the desire to retaliate is a perfectly normal reaction to being angered. The angrier such a person becomes, the more they try to suppress that anger, until they reach a boiling point and react explosively to the situation. On the other hand, a druid of the Black Mountain Druid Order would seek to restore balance by acknowledging this impulse. Instead of swallowing her anger, a druid of our order would recognize it as a darker impulse. But instead of returning anger for anger, this person might strive to express that anger in positive ways, perhaps by confronting the source of the anger and saying to the person, "You know, what you said or did really made me angry, and I don't want to be angry with you. What can we do to resolve this situation?" So what does all of this have to do with the Wheel of the Year? As much as we might sometimes like to think otherwise, we're not separate from nature. A huge body of research confirms that our environment and the seasons affect our moods and our behavior. If you think about it for a moment, you'll probably find this to be true for yourself as well. Do you find yourself becoming more contemplative and introspective during the winter months? Do you hibernate? Do you become happier and more outgoing in the summer months? Does a walk in the woods improve your mood? If so, you're not alone. The rites, rituals, and celebrations of the cycle of the seasons in our order allow us a tangible, symbolic representation of these inner states of being. Just as the seasons move back and forth between the cycles of light and darkness, so our own moods and feelings cycle between lighter and darker times. Celebrating the Wheel of the Year allows us to acknowledge both our lighter and our darker impulses in a sacramental way. By acknowledging them, we restore balance to our lives and to our spiritual journeys. When celebrating any high day of the Wheel of the Year, the first and most important goal is to ask yourself what your intention is in doing so. By focusing on the intention of the ritual, you avoid the trap of just going through the motions. If your rite or ritual is purpose-driven, you enhance its capacity to speak to you in meaningful ways. For this week's activity, go through the list of high days on the Wheel of the Year and pick your favorite, or the one that's the most meaningful to you. You can find a list at blackmountaindruidry.com. In order to direct your attention to the purpose of a high day, take some time before beginning a rite to ask yourself these questions about the one you've selected. Who will benefit from this ritual? What gods or goddesses does it serve? What is my relationship with this god or goddess? What gifts do they offer me, and what gifts do I offer them? What is the meaning of the rite to me? Is there something in my life I need to change, and if so, how will this rite help me to enhance that change? How should I perform this ritual so that it becomes more meaningful to me? What would help to enhance my appreciation of the rite? Would music help me? If so, what music? Are there any other tools or symbols that would be meaningful to have available to incorporate into the completion of the rite? Why am I celebrating this high day in the first place? What will engaging in this rite add to my own spiritual practice? if performing or participating as part of a group or a grove, will all the members present feel edified by taking part in the rite? All these questions will aid you in preparing your rites and rituals for the celebrations of the high days of the Sun Path. Are you interested in nature-centered spirituality? Are you looking to learn more about contemporary Druid practices? Did you know that the Black Mountain Druid Order has a free course in Druidry? Our foundational Druidry course covers the Wheel of the Year, basic herbalism, the Ogham alphabet, meditation, dream work, and vision seeking. It also teaches you how to begin doing your own shadow work. You'll also explore some rites of passage celebrated by our order. The foundational Druidry course is always free, and you're under no obligation to join our order if you decide that the way of the Druid is not for you. Find out more by visiting Black Mountain Druid Order's website at blackmountaindruidorder.com. The Awen of Water meditation is used to seek the Awen in matters associated with learning, teaching, and chronicling. It is helpful when you seek a season of new learning and education in your life. The Awen of Water meditation is particularly useful when learning matters concerned with culture, history, and your own ancestry. The direction of water is the west. It may help when performing this meditation to face west if possible. This meditation is especially powerful if done while sitting by a body of water, such as a river, a lake, or an ocean. The season associated with the Awen of the water is autumn. As you begin this meditation, visualize the sunrise on the first day of autumn. Begin with a few quiet, deep breaths. See the colors of fall in your mind's eye. The deep golds, reds, and yellows tell the story of the trees. The leaves have passed through the seasons and will soon be falling. Their passing will chronicle everything they have experienced since budding and newborn in the previous spring. The Awen of Water is the Awen of learning. Like the falling leaves of autumn, the Awen of Water is the wisdom and inspiration of passing through many seasons and learning the lessons each has to teach. The Awen of the Water is the Awen of growth and love. True wisdom always leads to love. Hatred is fear, and fear is ignorance. So the more you gain in learning and wisdom, the more your heart and spirit will naturally turn towards love. What can the Awen of Water teach you about casting aside fear and hatred and turning towards love? How can you shed your fears like the trees shed their leaves in the autumn? What knowledge and wisdom would you need to seek in order to do so? As you allow the inspiration of the Awen of Water into your own consciousness, Ponder the meaning of your own personal truths. How could the awen of water lead you to knowledge of your own personal truths? The awen of water is the awen of the laborer in the field. The way of the laborer is to achieve success through hard work and effort. What effort do you need to put forth in order to grow in knowledge and wisdom? What teachings can the awen of water lead you to? How might you work with these new teachings to grow in your own personal truths? How might you work with this new wisdom to grow in love? The awen of water is ruled by the Dagda. He is known as the good god and the Allfather of the Irish gods. He is the father and protector of the tribe. He is known by many names. One of these names is Rua Rafosa, the Lord of Great Knowledge. He's the many-skilled creator god of the Celtic peoples. The Dagda carries a war club that can kill 9 men with a single blow. But the handle of this club can restore a person to life. This club of the Dagda contains within it the mysteries of life and death. The Dagda also carries a cauldron called Kore Unsik. This is a cauldron of plenty from which no one ever left unsatisfied. What is your war club? What knowledge or wisdom do you possess that has the power to destroy or to heal? How can the awen of water inspire you to use this war club for the good of the tribe? What mysteries of life and death could the awen of water reveal to you? Danu's gift from the awen of water is the cauldron of the Dagda. It's a symbol of feminine power and energy. It is a cauldron of plenty from which no one ever goes away hungry. It is also the source of divine inspiration, and it has the power to restore life and to purify. What is your cauldron of plenty? What bounty of wisdom and inspiration can the awen of water bring to you? What inspiration do you offer to others? What feminine energies are influencing your life now? What is your relationship to them? Are you at peace or at war with these feminine energies? How might the Awen of Water help your relationship to these energies change for the better? How might the Cauldron of Plenty aid you in your quest for inspiration and wisdom? As this meditation on the Awen of Water draws to a close, give thanks to Danyu and to the Dada for the Cauldron of Plenty they have bestowed upon you. Give thanks to Caridwen for the inspiration within the cauldron. When you are ready, end this meditation, knowing that you have received the wisdom of Caridwen's potion of inspiration that flows from the Dada's cauldron.